Quickly, Tetra Pak, the biggest company in the group, is a very global company, customers in 170 countries, and it's carton packaging. Many of these you see in the shelves in the shops here in Sweden, and some you don't see. For example, this little pouch Tetra Fino, which is also it's a more simple package, but also protects food in the same way. What happened here? It moves by itself. And the main technology that Tetra Pak has, that really made Tetra Pak such a global company, is the aseptic UHT technology. That means that you can preserve foods without refrigeration, no preservatives, and with a long shelf life. And this is really how we can make food safe and available globally. With our business, we actually address several of the SDGs. Of course, we are in the agricultural food business, so it's SDG 2. And there are a lot of challenges that needs to be addressed. We have the fact that a lot of people are hungry in the world; they need nutrition. And in the dairy sector, a lot of the milk, about 40%, comes from smallholder farmers, and many of those farms are not connected to a formal market, and a lot of the milk is consumed unprocessed, which in itself is a danger. It could be very dangerous to consume milk if it's not properly processed and packed. And of course, the issue with a lot of food being lost and wasted along the value chain if you don't handle it correctly. So we have, because we're in this business, we have an opportunity to address these global challenges, and we actively try to do so. And we formed the team that I'm part of, the Food for Development team, in the year 2000. We are a team of consultants. With different kinds of expertise in the team. We have experts on milk production, we have specialists in school feeding implementation. I'm dealing a lot with our partnerships, and we have different regional backgrounds. We also work closely with our colleagues in Tetra Laval and Tetra Pak, of course. We're basically a knowledge hub in these three fields. It's smallholder milk production, how these can become part of our customers' value chains. It's about school milk and nutrition programs. I'm not going to talk so much about that today, but this is of course business for us. Our packages are used in around 60 countries for school feeding programs, and we have a lot of expertise that we can share with partners to develop these programs. And the third area where we also provide and facilitate is product development. Milk is our core business, but of course you can pack other products in our packages. And for feeding programs, we help to develop products that provide nutrition. It could be our partners wanting to develop a certain crop or a certain food, and to formulate a product which targets specific deficiencies and dietary habits or whatever, and so we can help to make these recipes and develop these products. But today I'm going to focus on partnerships in linking smallholders to market, which is a big part of our activities. So why do we work in partnerships? We're a big company. We can do a lot on our own, but we do need partners if we're going to really make a difference, and we need partners mainly in three fields. It's of course funding and finance. Technical assistance costs money. You need people on the ground. It's about investments and so on. Implementation. We need. We know a lot of things, but we don't know everything. We need partners who are experts in fields where we are not experts, but also to reach more beneficiaries. So we need implementing partners, and of course we need to find these partners. We need networks and platforms where we can get to know potential partners and future partners, but also to share knowledge and learn. So partners for us could be both very informal partnership. We work together, but we're not really formalizing it, and it could be more formalized partnerships with agreements and signed documents. We work very closely with governments. For example, in school feeding programs, it's very often, or usually, government run or funded. So this could be ministries of agriculture, education, UN agencies, with a lot of focus in Rome, with Rome-based agencies who are all in food and agriculture, World Food Programme, FAO, and IFAD. Development agencies, obviously SIDA, who we have worked with for many years, and we consider ourselves a Swedish company, so that's natural for us to build up a relationship with SIDA and work with SIDA, but we also work with other donor agencies. NGOs and implementing organizations. One example is Heifer International, who's a lot in dairy development, which is our core business. Nutrition and school feeding networks, these are all abbreviations. The SUN, Scaling Up Nutrition, GCNF, Global Child Nutrition Forum. There are many specific. CFS is the Committee for World Food Security, which is the Rome-based agencies working with global food security issues. And of course with other companies. These abbreviations stand for Arla Food Ingredients and DSM, I can't remember now, but it's an ingredients company as well. So yes, also other, do you know the name of, no? DSM?
Danish sugar?
No, it's not Danish sugar.
No, I know it's Dutch, but also Dutch.
I think it was Dutch, but I don't know.
I think it is Dutch, yeah. Sorry, I should know that. So, yes, a lot of different kinds of partners for different reasons. Now, we are a private sector actor, so why should anybody work with us? I thought it was really interesting what we saw here this morning about these perceptions about each other, and we are really struggling hard to convince organizations that represent other sectors that we are not such bad guys. Yes, we are profit driven, but that could also be something good, because it means that we won't spend money on something that won't last and doesn't give the expected outcomes, because we can't afford that, and we can't give away our money. But we can work long term, and we can be a pull or an engine, a market linkage, because in the end we talk now agriculture and food. It's all produced by private sector. Farmers are private sector. Somebody has to buy it. So if there is no business model or a market that demands these products, we won't achieve anything. But there are various ways that private sector can be engaged in as partners, and this now we talk partnerships for development. Of course, traditionally we can be a supplier of goods and services to anybody, also to the donor sectors, and that of course has been the case for a long time. We offer our products and it's paid by donor funds. That's one thing. That's not what we call a partnership, though. Information exchange. Of course, we have a lot of valuable information that can be shared for these purposes. And then we have all these CSR and doing good projects. Nothing bad with that. Also, our group donates products, money, especially in connection to emergencies. But it's not development, and we're not going to be able to do it large scale. We can't give away our resources. So when we talk about partnership, we really mean when we partner in joint projects. And ideally, the initiative comes from us. We see, because we are there in the markets and we know a lot about all these markets, we see a need, we see a gap. Something is needed here to make this value chain function. So we identify this. We can't solve the problem ourselves, so we look for partners who can help us. A partnership is also something joint, where you put resources on the table from all partners. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be expertise or other resources, but you all contribute. It's not one paying the other to do something. You all contribute resources. This little booklet here is something that we produced in the FAO, Swedish FAO committee, which I'm part of, and this is really also an effort to get the message through. there are three perspectives in this why we believe that it's good to work with the private sector. So it's the private sector perspective, us saying work with us and why. And then we have the public sector or donor perspective. SIDA has written one section here. And then we have the civil society perspective. And then we have some simple recommendations that we believe are important. So when is it relevant to work with the private sector? Where there had to be common goals. The private sector is very often the engine, and when the private sector's activities actually and the goals of the private sector overlap with development goals, that's the area where we can collaborate. Market linkage. I think this is really the main thing that we bring to the table. It's not enough to focus on agricultural production, produce more or better food. There has to be a market, otherwise this production cannot continue. Synergies, if we use our resources towards a common goal, it's more efficient. Takes time to establish new concept. Well, so of course we should ask ourselves, why should donor money come in this particular project? If it can't stand on its own, why should you have support? But when you start something from scratch, the volumes are very small. You introduce a new concept, a new technology. This takes time, and it won't be commercially viable until many years ahead. This is the period when you build up capacity and volumes where private sector might need this collaboration. And then I think when you talk about sustainability, there are really three legs: social, environmental, and economic. And when it comes to the economic part of this, I think this is where the really strong contribution from the private sector lies. I don't know, maybe Anne, you will have this slide. But what it's all about is where you know, this, we talk a lot about the sweet spot, where these, and I already mentioned, where these goals overlap. This is where we should collaborate, when our goals overlap. So I won't spend time on that. So now this is our model. I'll spend more time on that instead. We through the years, we realized that we really have a role to play in helping our customer suppliers. Our customers, Tetra Pak's customers, are the dairies. They need milk. So where do they get the milk? Well, they can buy it from a big farm, which is usually not a problem. You just go there and pick it up. Or they can even start their own farms, have full control. But there is a lot, as I said, 40% of the milk in the world is produced by smallholders. How do you harvest this milk? And it's not only the milk that is produced today but by these smallholders. There's also potential to produce a lot more if they have the right knowledge, the right inputs. So there's a lot of milk not being produced that could be produced. So this is a model to help our dairy customers to harvest smallholder milk. They have a dairy operation. They know exactly how you produce, process, and pack quality milk. But of course, they're no experts in smallholder milk production, and they don't know where to start. So this is a model to help them with that. And it's a combination of the infrastructure needed, village milk collection centers where farmers sell their milk, and bulking it into a bigger center where the dairy can pick it up. So how do you get farmers to do this? There must be an incentive for them. And the incentive is they have a secure market. Now they can suddenly sell all the milk they produce, morning, evening. When they're on their own, they sit there in the market or they sell to a hawker who comes every other day. Here they can sell everything. And that's the only way that you can really feel sure that to invest in your own production, that you know that you can sell the produce. They also get access to training, to knowledge about how to produce more and better milk, higher quality and higher volume. A key here is feed. If cows don't get enough water and nutritious feed, they won't produce very much. So this is one of the first things that these projects deal with. It's also services. Of course, they need veterinary services, financial services, all sorts of services to develop their production, and also sometimes financing to be able to invest in new cows, some equipment, so on. The commitments from the dairy processor and sort of on the company or processor side and private sector, including us, it's a commitment to buy all the milk, as I said. Also to invest in this infrastructure, unless it's already there. There are, of course, cases where you have very developed cooperatives that have already invested in this. But there is no need to organize the farmers in cooperatives unless they are not already organized, because this project in itself organizes groups of farmers, and they don't have to take the risk that it actually is to buy this equipment and invest in it. So the dairy processor invests in this collection and transport, and also collects data, especially if we involve external partners. We need to monitor this. Where are the results on the farm level and on the dairy level? And of course, a long-term perspective. Cows don't have an on and off button, and farmer loyalty is not on and off as you wish. This you build up over time, and you have to stand by it. You do this over time. And this is why we never expose a project like this to an external potential partner until we've started it and seen that we have a committed partner. And these are the stakeholders in a project. The smallholder farmers are the target group, the beneficiaries, and we work through a dairy processor, which is our customer, and we have our group behind us, Tetra Laval, our team. And then in some cases, we start with this left part of this figure, and then when we see that this is something we can scale up, it works, we have a committed partner, then we can engage implementing agencies and external support to scale this up. And one such project, which we for 3 years worked with SIDA funding, was a project in Bangladesh, where we worked with our main dairy customer there, Prawn. So we started 2 dairy hubs ourselves, and then the next 3 was a partnership implemented by UNIDO, a UN organization, and some of the technical assistance costs, staff costs, covered by SIDA. And it was very much about training in various fields, of course, feeding, also management and business, milk production as a business, data collection, calf management, milk quality. I won't go into details, but everything these farmers needed to improve their production. And it was on different levels, with a lot of focus on the farm level. It's very staff intensive. You have maybe one extension officer per 50 or 100 farmers. You gather farmers also in the villages in groups, but you also actually in the farms. And then we had a dairy academy connected, which actually trained trainers and farm managers, both men and women, and measuring results. This is after measuring on the first dairy hub that we started ourselves, looking at the yields per cow and day, which is important to see how milk production is improved, and they are more than doubling the yields with the same cows. It's not new cows. This is often a mistake we see with development projects, that the first thing they look at are the cows. So these are low-yielding local cows. You know, we have to import nice Dutch hybrid cows. But if you don't know how to treat a low-yielding local cow, you definitely don't know how to treat a high-yielding imported cow. So you start with what you have. And these cows, you can improve production. For the dairy, it's of course important that the milk collection volume is increasing. They are doing this because they need more milk. And in this area, they went from collecting little buckets here and there, 2,000 liters, to I think they are around 50,000 liters. They're actually now building a dairy in the area because they have enough milk now to justify that. And the income, we are measuring also what this means for farmer income, that they more and more of them specialize and they make more money. This is more detail on that. This is a more recent example we're working with. We've started with quite a small dairy in Kenya. This is just us for the time being. Now, after 18 months, we see that we have reached certain results and that the dairy is committed, and now we want to engage partners into this. And these are just some examples of farmers that my colleague met a couple of weeks ago. This lady, she had 3 cows, and they produced 10 liters per cow when the project started. Now, after 18 months, and it's a lot about improved feeding, individual feeding and better feed. Now she has 7 cows, and they each produce 20 liters, and she has bought a second-hand car for the money that she has earned from this. And my colleague was telling me that the project provided a recipe of feed. Before, they just bought sacks of unidentified cow feed at a certain cost. No idea what's in it. It's expensive, but it's good for cows. Instead, now they are given a recipe and they buy the ingredients and they mix the feed themselves and they know what's in it. So with less money, they get more milk. So without any investments, just knowledge and doing it in a different way, you have results immediately. And this is another lady. She started from a lower level with her 3 cows producing 6-7 liters per day. She started to make her own feed, and so she's now not in shortage of feed any longer. And now her 7 cows produce 10 liters per cow per day, and she has built a new cow shed for her animals. So, how am I for time? I'm wrapping up. So, we're trying to identify some success factors here and to see how we can learn from this. It has to build a market demand, of course, and we believe that because of that, it's good if the initiative comes from the private sector, because we know where the market demand is. Another key point, and it's actually the first recommendation in this one, is that all partners, all stakeholders in a potential partnership have to allow or allocate resources for development of the partnership. We unfortunately meet when we talk to some of the UN organizations that, okay, well, when we get the money, then we can talk. But hey, we talk about what? We have to decide first if we have something to talk about. So all partners on all sides have to have this as their core activity, to have resources to allow partnership development. Otherwise, we won't have any partnerships. Long term, of course, there has to be sustainable business and financing models behind and maybe this is specific for value chain development. Clear roles and understanding for counterparts' goals and incentives to overcome these perceptions that we probably come in with. Partner on equal terms, and also when it comes to development, I think we need processes where private sector can come in very early in planning processes. Because even if we don't really partner in specific projects, there is so much that we can add to these planning processes of which commodities to work with, what are the gaps, what are the needs, so that we don't steer expensive donor-funded project towards something that won't last or give the results. This is just an example of the latest partnership we signed with, that was signed with SIDA. It's a big dairy development project in Kenya. Not the one that I gave examples for, but another one. I think we have 4 projects now in Kenya. 1 with SIDA and 3 smaller ones that we're doing ourselves. That was all. Thank you very much.
Really nice presentation, and the floor is open for questions.
Keep this on until...
All in the back.
I'm actually very curious. Very, very nice presentation, as well as the work that has been done. But I'm just out of curiosity, because I've seen something similar in Nepal as well. How is the selling price decided? Like, how is it, like, is it done collaboratively? The selling price of the milk, how the locals then sell it?
Okay. Yeah, we very often get this question. So you lock in the farmers and you take away their negotiating power and so on. Of course, this is business between the dairy and the farmers. Yes, but what I'd like to say when it comes to milk price is that it's not the price that is important. What's important for the farmer is the margin. If this project actually pays less than the hawker in the street buying your milk, that doesn't matter as long as your production cost is going down. And this is what these projects are aiming at. You produce a lot more efficient with all the services you get, with the training, with the good inputs, your production costs decrease. So what's interesting is the margin between your production cost and what you paid for the milk. And so it's not the price itself that is important, it is this margin. And this goes for all dairy farmers all around the world. It's the margin that is interesting. So it's a lot more focus should be put on your production costs rather than just blindly looking at what am I paid for 1 liter of milk. So, and I would say that in a project like this, there has to be trust and loyalty, because if these dairies they have nothing to win by abusing the farmers, because of course then the farmers will sell the milk elsewhere or grow something else or sell some other they just stop. So there has to be a good balance here, and all these stakeholders understand that. And actually in the case of Bangladesh, I was told by my colleagues that no farmer had actually left the project voluntarily. Some were expelled because they fiddled with money and milk, but no farmer who had signed up as a supplier left because they gained so much from this. And there are ways of having discussions with farmer groups about and negotiating price. I don't know, was that an answer?
Maybe one more question, and after that we'll move on. There's maybe a question that came in from our Facebook participants. It's very interesting work, and I think because you have a replicating model, and we'll probably have a lot of ideas or where things go wrong in different settings and why, and so it can feed right into learning models of how multi-stakeholder partnerships work and what are the ups and downs. Really, I don't know. Can you comment on different, for example, different cultural settings? Things are more difficult or easier to work with.
Each project has to be designed according to the local conditions, not just cultural and those kinds of issues, but also to how. What does it look like? How dense is milk production? Where are the farmers? How you set up milk collection and where these collection centers should be? And so actually they're not identical, these projects. You really adapt. Even the training material has to be adapted. You have different crops in different countries. You have different traditions and people have to feel recognized. So we change pictures. We change a lot of all the basics of that. Cows are very much the same all around the world, but of course around it, how farmers work and their traditions are different. Mm-hmm. But milk production is very similar, more similar than one thinks. I think. Thank you
very much. Just one more question.
Maria. My name is Maria Milivojevic. I'm from the Ministry of Enterprise, and we produced that publication that you mentioned together. Our first speaker spoke about the difference now from 10, 20 years ago about multi-stakeholder partnerships, but now it's much more normal to talk about multi-stakeholder partnerships. And you have worked with this for quite some time as well. Do you see any difference today compared to, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Yes, very much so, and very much in the attitude. SIDA's attitude has changed over the years. Now we have a very good working relationship, and we are actually using a lot of the ways we are working with SIDA as a good example when we try to convince other donors and other organizations. As we work a lot in the UN sphere with you, there are varied
levels of maturity when it comes to working with the private sector there as well. But it's all going in one direction, I think, to be more open to these types of partnerships. And I think also the perceptions and these misperceptions about each other's sectors is also gradually changing. The more examples we have, and the more developed these types of multi-stakeholder partnerships are, these perceptions will change over time. But it's a long process, and very often you find that the leadership of an organization might have it all sorted out. This, we have a department for this. This is what. But then you have all the people on the ground representing that organization that hasn't really understood what it's all about. So it takes a very long time for this to change all through organizations, and that's the same on the private sector side, I would say, who has a lot of misperceptions about the public side. So those of us who are engaged in this, all have an important task in teaching our own organizations about the benefits of this, and also the limitations. I mean, you can't do just anything. There is a certain area where we can do this.
I think we'll just move on. Thank you very much once again.